All right, you can go ahead and ring it. Yep.
Good morning. Is this on? Can you hear me now? Okay. My name is Carol Rowan. I have the privilege of serving as the worship associate this morning. We welcome everyone who's here and online to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Roanoke, with a special welcome to people who are here for the first time. And we hope all of us here, that people will join us for in Fellowship Hall after the service so we can get to know new people even better. For those of us who are here, can you please stand up, take a second, and wave at the camera to connect with those watching on YouTube? Okay, thank you. And for those of you who were just waved at, if you'd like to share your joys and concerns during the lifetimes part of the service, please put them in the chat in the next 15 minutes. Now, we acknowledge with gratitude and reverence that our church resides on land inhabited by the Tutelo and Monacan nations. Our minister is Reverend Walter LaFleur. While he's away today, our service will be led by Nelson Lafon, whose sermon is Coexistence, a Tale of Two Species. Our focus today in today's service is related to the seventh principle, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. And today, as part of that, we are honoring all creatures, great and small, wild and tame. At the end of today's service, immediately after the chalice extinction, there will be a video of a number of animals, including the pets of some of our UUCR members. I hope you enjoy it. One final reminder, just now, is to please silence your cell phones if you haven't already done so. And now Walker and Matt, can you come up and talk about the Christmastide giving?
All right. Good morning. I'm going to leave most of that task to Walker. One of the things that we as a board that we wanted to commit to with having Rev Walter here is to transform stewardship. That's one of our developmental goals. And one of the ways we've been trying to do that is through increased communication and increased transparency. So we wanted to come once a quarter and kind of give an update on where we were financially. We didn't quite meet our annual target during the pledge campaign, largely because of the cell phone tower income that was taken away. I think we've been through that story a couple times. When we finished the campaign, we were short of our goal of about $270,000. We had hit 244. We came in the third quarter, we were somewhere around $250,000. And with some end of year giving, already we're over $260,000. So really done well with that. And tied on with the great results from the service auction, we are really made whole on the income side of our budget. So this is more of a pat on the back rather than a pull from your purses. So that's the update from my side.
My main man, John O'Donoghue, he's Irish Catholic Celtic mystic, was, I should say, a favorite of mine. And his book, Anna Carum, which is Gaelic for soul friend, he talks about the effect of the invisible, of the mystic part of our journey. He has this to say, that part of what we're here for is to develop that individual nature which is in all of us. We discover qualities and treasures that can never be damaged, and they can never be hurt by time. And they belong absolutely to you. You don't have to need, you don't have to grasp, you don't have to earn, you don't have to protect. These spiritual qualities, as you gain them here with us, last for a lifetime and can never be taken away. In that light, I want to remind you all of the opportunity to remember our UCRR. Boy, howdy. Ooh. There you go. Our church. in your benevolent giving for this year. And I just want to remind you, if the word that's for the wealthy, if that idea that I can't afford this comes to your mind, wrong, right? This is a movement of the heart. And it doesn't matter how much it is. Yeah, it doesn't matter how much it is. And we have a number of ways for you to give on the website. But I encourage all of you to take a moment from your heart and remember us in your period of benevolent giving this holiday. Thank you very much.
And now our words of welcome. Please join me. Are they up there? Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you express your identity, whatever your situation in life, whatever your experience of the holy, as you come seeking love, your presence here is a gift. Whether you are filled with sadness or overflowing with joy, needing to be alone with yourself or eager to engage others, all who welcome all are welcome here. And our covenant, we commit to supporting each other with respect and direct communication as we work in community to explore spiritual growth and to be a force for good in the world.
Each day to the steps of St. Paul's The little old bird woman comes in her own special way to the people she calls. Come, buy my bags full of crumbs. Come feed the little birds, show them you care, and you'll be glad if you do. Their young ones are hungry, their nests are so bare. All it takes is a tuppence from you. Feed the birds, tuppence a bag, tuppence, tuppence, tuppence a bag. Feed the birds, that's what she cries, while overhead her birds fill the skies. All around the cathedral of saints and apostles look down as she sells her wares. Although you can't see it, you know they are smiling each time someone shows that he cares. Though her words are simple and few, listen, listen, she's calling to you. Feed the birds, tuppence a bag, tuppence, tuppence, tuppence a bag.
Thank you, Martha. That song, I remember hearing that when I was in college and went to see Mary Poppins, and it brought tears to my eyes, as it still does. So, thank you. Our opening words, the first opening words today, are from a song in our hymnal. This is the second verse of Where My Free Spirit Onwards Leads, and I'm not going to sing it, so don't worry about that. My family is not confined to mother, mate, and child, but it includes all creatures, be they tame or be they wild. My family upon this earth includes all living things, on land or in the ocean deep, or borne aloft on wings. And the opening words by Jane Goodall from her book, Reason for Hope. That was published in 2000 when she was 65. And what I'm going to read is kind of about the beginning of her life, but also how she moved on from there. My love of living things was encouraged so that from the very beginning, I was able to develop that sense of wonder, of awe, that can lead to spiritual awareness. I had a mother who not only tolerated, but also encouraged my passion for nature and animals. My memories of childhood are almost inseparable from memories of Rusty, an endearing black mongrel dog with a white patch on his chest. He was my constant companion, and he taught me so much about the true nature of animals. There were other pets too at different times. I dreamed about nature, animals, and the magic of far-off wild and remote places. Our house was filled with bookshelves, and the books spilled out onto the floor. My very favorite books at the time were The Story of Dr. Dolittle, The Jungle Book, and the marvelous Edgar Rice Burroughs Tarzan books. She goes on to ask, how should we relate to each other, to other life forms of the world? What is our human responsibility? And what, ultimately, is our human destiny? And she writes, since 1986, I've been traveling almost constantly to share with as many people as possible that I feel it is desperately important. The message that I feel is desperately important, hope for the future of life on earth. And now we light our chalice, a symbol of the Unitarian Universalist faith.
Hello, I'm Jessie McEwen. I'm the Director of Lifespan Faith Development here, and I'm going to invite all young folks, or if you're young at heart and want to get close, come on down. And just a little bit about me, I use they, them pronouns. And if you're wondering what Lifespan Faith Development here is, it's religious education for all ages. Today, I have two very special dogs that I'd like to tell you guys about. The first one is named Smudge. Let me show you a picture of Smudge. I'm going to hold it up. Everybody can see Smudge. Smudge has a very special job. Smudge belongs to, or works with, I should say, my friend Betsy, not that Betsy, different Betsy. And Smudge's job is to tell Betsy when things are happening. Because you see, Betsy is deaf, and she's a mother of now 4. She just had a new kid, 4 boys. And sometimes Betsy needs things brought to her attention. But Smudge will go get Betsy if the doorbell's ringing. Smudge will go get Betsy when somebody needs some help in the bathroom. Smudge now has learned how to go get Betsy when the baby is crying. So when just Betsy is home with all 4 boys, those boys don't have to be responsible for each other because Smudge is responsible for them, kind of like Nana in Peter Pan. Smudge also goes to stores with Betsy. So if someone's going, excuse me, ma'am, Smudge can take her paw and tap Betsy's foot, and Smudge will say, excuse me, ma'am, for them. This is a service dog. She has a very special vest that she wears. And she's also, when she's not wearing her vest, she's a lot of fun to play with. This dog, who's sitting beside someone's feet, is a dog named Lucy. Now, Lucy also has a very special job. These feet belong to my mom. She's a nurse, and she takes care of people at the very end of their lives. She also goes out into the wilderness and places that need a nurse when they're outdoors. She is their nurse too. So Lucy can sometimes get places a lot faster than my mom can, especially when my mom is wearing flip-flops like in this picture. So Lucy has a very special backpack. And the first thing they do when they get to camp, or when my mom moves to someone's house to take care of them at the end of their life, the first thing Lucy does is learn where everything is. And then Lucy and her special backpack have medicine. So if mom says, Lucy, take this medicine to this camp, she'll run that medicine to Chief Hull's camp. Or if mom says, Lucy, you need to take this downstairs, Lucy will take it downstairs to someone's bed so that they can get what they need. And Lucy has been trained to do this. Very special job. She's not really a service dog, but she is a support animal. And she's still allowed to go on planes and things like that, like a service dog would, but she works for the entire community, not just one person. So these 2 dogs, Smudge and Lucy, have very special jobs. And today, we're honoring all the different animals, the animals that live with us, the animals that live in other places, the animals that live in the wilderness, the animals that live in the ocean. We're honoring all those animals today. And I did not want today to go by without us talking a little bit about dogs and other animals that have very special jobs. We're going to go upstairs and talk about a few more animals that have very, very special jobs. And we're going to make some dog sandwiches. So if anybody out here needs some dog sandwiches, after the service, we will make your dog some sandwiches.
Our speaker today is Nelson Lafon. Nelson is a wildlife program manager with the Virginia Department of Wildlife Resources, where he deals with white-tailed deer, black bears, wild turkeys, small game species, and biological data. He received both his bachelor's and master's degrees in fisheries and wildlife science from Virginia Tech. His master's thesis pertained to development of Virginia's first black bear management plan. Nelson is a certified wildlife biologist with the Wildlife Society. He's a native of Pulaski, Virginia, and lives in Grandin Village, a mile from the church, with his wife, Emily, son, Malin, and daughter, Asalia, and dog, Jasper. Nelson and Emily have been members of UUCR since 2015. And now Nelson with a reading and his own message.
Well, good morning. And thank you, Carol, for the introduction. For this morning's reading, I'd like to share a couple of excerpts from Thinking Like a Mountain, a chapter in a Sound County Almanac by Aldo Leopold. Leopold was a leader in the early 20th century conservation movement and considered one of the founders of the science of wildlife management. The following excerpt describes a life-changing event for Leopold when he was only 24-year-old, working as a forest ranger in the Gila Wilderness in New Mexico. And I quote, "A deep, chesty bawl echoes from rimrock to rimrock, rolls down the mountain, and fades into the far blackness of the night. It is an outburst of wild, defiant sorrow and of contempt for all the adversities of the world. Every living thing, and perhaps many a dead one as well, pays heed to that call. To the deer, it is a reminder of the ways of all flesh. To the pine, a forecast of midnight scuffles and blood upon the snow. To the coyote, a promise of gleanings to come. To the cowman, a threat of red ink at the bank. To the hunter, a challenge of fang against bullet. Yet, behind those obvious and immediate hopes and fears lies a deeper meaning, known only to the mountain itself. Only the mountain has lived long enough to listen objectively to the howl of a wolf," end quote. Leopold then recounts how he and a group of other rangers out on patrol stopped for lunch one day at the edge of the rimrock and witnessed a female wolf and her pups crossing the stream below. Being men of their times and carrying antiquated views and antique firearms, they shot and killed the adult wolf and injured at least one of the pups. Again, I quote, "We reached the old wolf in time to watch a fierce green fire dying in her eyes. I realized then, and have known ever since, that there was something new to me in those eyes, something known only to her and to the mountain. I was young then and full of trigger itch. I thought that because fewer wolves meant more deer, that no wolves would mean hunter's paradise. But after seeing the green fire die, I sensed that neither the wolf nor the mountain agreed with such a view." This concludes the reading. Begin my talk, I'd first like to thank Carol Rowland for the invitation and thank all of you all for the opportunity to speak on something incredibly important to me, both personally and professionally today. And as Carol said, I'm Nelson Lafon. I'm a biologist with our state wildlife agency, which is the Virginia Department of Wildlife Resources. But I'm also coming to you today as a member of this congregation with the privilege of having been asked to give a sermon for the first time in my life. And the way I see it, it's my one best shot to use the bully pulpit to preach my perspectives on the seventh principle, which is respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we all are part. So I'm sort of wearing two hats here this morning, and with apologies to my employer and all of you, this may be the first time in my career I have literally mixed church and state so blatantly. So this morning we'll discuss the topic of coexistence, which is loosely translated living with. We will illustrate this concept with the love-hate relationship that humans have had with another species of animal over the centuries. As described in one of my agency's publications, which I'll reference in a couple minutes, this species captures human admiration and interest like few others. As a reflection of strength, images of this animal are often used as icons for countries and sports teams. Because of their intelligence and ingenuity, These animals are perceived to have human-like emotional qualities, often finding their way as central characters in children's stories, and as metaphors in fables and in daily speech. At this point, based on the reading and my description, perhaps you've assumed that This Is a Tale of Two Species is about humans and wolves. Wolves, a cousin of our beloved domestic dog, would be a perfect vehicle for exploring the challenges of coexistence. But as you probably know, although both gray or timber wolves and red wolves were native to Virginia at the time of European settlement, they were extirpated here in the 19th century. So I chose a happier story, a conservation success story, but perhaps just as challenging. It is one that I think is ultimately more instructive to us modern day Virginians as we continue to learn how to coexist successfully with other animals. Right here in the Roanoke area, right now, we live with an even larger carnivore than wolves, a species that has recovered from near extinction a century ago to unqualified abundance here today, a species that both amazes us and challenges us as a wild neighbor. And of course, I'm talking about the American black bear. Bears evolved from a dog-like ancestor some 40 or 50 million years ago, and modern bears appeared in Eurasia about 5 million years ago, around the time that the American black bear immigrated to North America and differentiated from its close cousin, the Asiatic black bear. The scientific name of our native black bear is Ursus americanus, which honors its American origin. Humans, scientific name Homo sapiens, meanwhile evolved just 1/4 of a million or 250,000 years ago from our earlier hominid ancestors in Africa, spreading some 40 or 50,000 years ago into the range of bears in Europe and Asia. Cave paintings in Spain and the Caucasus show that these early humans hunted bears, but I'm sure there were other interactions as well, as we can try to imagine. Were our human ancestors curious about these large animals? Were they fearful, competitive, jealous, grateful for their fur and food provided? Maybe a little of all of these. When the first humans arrived in North America around 15,000 years ago, they would have encountered polar bears in the far north, brown bears or grizzlies in the western and middle parts of the continent, and black bears basically everywhere except the Arctic, and a couple of other bear species which shortly thereafter went extinct. One of those extinct species was the giant short-faced bear, much larger than the modern grizzly, standing 12 feet tall, weighing in at 1,500 pounds, and able to run 40 miles an hour, the fastest bear ever. With creatures, creatures like that and saber-toothed tigers around, it's no wonder we humans evolved fear of the dark, right? Humans have occupied part of what is now Western or Virginia for at least 10,000 years. In fact, there were Totara people, ancestors of the Tulo and relatives of the Monacans, living in the Roanoke area approximately 10,000 years ago. By that time, black bears would have been the only bear species remaining in this area, which is still true today. It's fitting for our discussion today to note that the Monacan Indian Nation, a federally and state-recognized sovereign tribe, is headquartered at Bear Mountain in Amherst County, about an hour and a half east of here, and they have a black bear on their seal. Prior to European settlement, Native Americans used bears for food, clothing, weapons, ornaments, and for ritualistic and spiritualistic purposes. As described in the Department of Wildlife Resources Virginia Black Bear Management Plan, black bears were abundant in the vicinity of Jamestown when the English settlers arrived in 1607 and were found in all regions of Virginia. But rapidly expanding populations of European colonists reduced bear populations through both habitat change and overexploitation. Not only did the white settlers overharvest bears for their own use, but they also killed bears that ate crops and livestock. Bears and other carnivores like wolves and mountain lions were seen as direct competitors to their way of life, whether commercial agriculture or subsistence farming. By 1900, habitat changes and overharvest of bears for food and hides had nearly extirpated the species, except for some isolated small populations in remote areas, like the Great Dismal Swamp in southeastern Virginia, or our western mountains, very close to where we sit here today. If there had been an Endangered Species Act in 1900, black bears would have been on that list, along with white-tailed deer and wild turkey, all of which are plentiful game species today. Since the early to mid-1900s, reforestation, public land purchases, oak forest maturation, establishment and enforcement of game laws, natural range expansion, and translocation of bears from one place to another have all contributed to their population recovery and growth in Virginia. In the 1920s and 30s, national forests and national parks were established in Virginia, providing refuges for bears and other animals. To help regulate hunting, black bears were formally listed as a game species in Virginia in 1930. As a side note, this was the period when Aldo Leopold and others were developing wildlife management as a more rigorous scientific discipline in land-grant universities like Virginia Tech, implemented through a more professionally trained professional civilian workforce and through research and management. Wildlife agencies, universities, sportsmen's organizations, and other conservation partners have successfully reestablished black bears across much of its native range in North America. In Virginia, black bears currently occupy all but just a few eastern counties and are considered abundant in much of the state. Expanding black bear populations have proven the adaptability and resilience of the species, but black bears are still recognized as indicators of ecological health and they're symbols of American wilderness. Many people simply value bears because they exist in their native ecosystems. Many residents take pleasure in watching, hunting, or photographing this fascinating mammal. However, bears may also inflict damage to personal property, crops, and livestock, and may sometimes be perceived as a human safety risk. As some of you here may know from your own experience, bears are crafty omnivores that will do just about anything to get food. With a sense of smell that's really stronger than a bloodhound, they will seek out human foods, trash, crops, fruit trees, beehives, compost piles, grills, bird feeders. The list goes on and on. Anything that might provide a few calories to fatten them up before they go into hibernation in the fall and refuel them when they wake up hungry in the spring. They will sometimes destroy human property to look for food, tearing apart wooden posts or siding for insects or worms, water pipes in the ground for grubs, cabins or even vehicles where food is stored, tents and backpacks where recreationists carry their food. While bears' ability to find food is certainly admirable, and many of their antics may be humorous, when the attraction and habituation to human food sources leads to residential property damage, impacts a farmer's livelihood, or evolves into a public safety risk at a campground, our fascination turns to frustration or worse, fear. With a larger bear population, bear management objectives have changed from restoring to stabilizing populations over much of the state. And as noted in the Virginia Black Bear Management Plan, active management is necessary to maintain bear populations and habitat for the benefit of present and future generations. There have been 3 editions of that bear management plan, including the first in 2000, a revision in 2012, and the latest revision just completed this year. These plans were all developed by the Virginia Department of Wildlife Resources with various stakeholder groups, from hunters to homeowners to environmentalists to farmers to other natural resource management agencies, all coming to some sort of consensus about the goals that should drive black bear management. All of these plans have referenced the term coexist or coexistence, but the concept is much more front and center in the latest revision. Why is that? What does this really mean for us today? How can a growing human population coexist into the future with a robust population of this large, adaptable carnivore/omnivore? Coexistence has a couple of definitions, and let's take Merriam-Webster for an example. To exist together or at the same time, to live in peace with each other, especially as a matter of policy. So those are 2 different definitions. The context is generally among groups of people living in the same area, often those who have been in conflict with each other for some time, like the Israelis and Palestinians, or maybe closer to home, Democrats and Republicans. But it can also apply to humans and wildlife sharing the same land. Note that the first definition contains no adjectives and places no qualifiers on how the 2 groups or species should even get along. It could be easy and peaceful, or it could be difficult and full of conflict. I think most of us, when we see that bumper sticker that says coexist, tend to think of it the second definition, that coexistence suggests a harmonious arrangement where everyone is happy. I would suggest that for humans and many wild animals, especially large carnivores like black bears, our goal for coexistence is somewhere in the middle. There will always be a tension between, on one hand, ensuring the health and welfare of individual humans and wild animals, and on the other hand, keeping wild animals wild and not dependent on human sources of food and shelter. In this case, the needs of both species are being met, but you can imagine that a bear deterred by an electric fence around a beehive may not be too happy about getting a zap and that he didn't get any honey. The technical term we use for such a scenario is tough love. Now I will discuss some strategies for coexisting with bears, generalizable to other species as well. I won't really get into the weeds due to the time we have this morning, but I will leave you all with a couple of resources here if any of you would like more details. The two basic approaches for coexisting with most wild species are two sides of the same coin. A, providing sufficient quantity and quality of natural habitats so that wild animals have the food, cover, shelter, and space they need without humans. And B, reducing their dependence on human food, sources of food and shelter and those associated human-wildlife conflicts. You know, some wild animals are easier to coexist with than others because providing habitat and preventing dependence is relatively easy. For example, many species of resident birds achieve their basic needs in human-dominated landscapes while rarely, if ever, causing any conflicts with humans. Yes, they might get some seeds from us on occasionally, but in reality, they can take us or leave us. I doubt I will get much disagreement from a room full of UUs that we need to protect and conserve wild places, right? Both as habitat for wildlife and as sanctuary from modern urban human existence. In the case of bears, they do quite well over a range of habitat types, from deep wilderness to human-altered landscapes like our agricultural valleys, where unfortunately they do depend too much on crops and orchards. It's hard to believe, but we used to think of animals like white-tailed deer as a creature of the wilderness. And we made the same mistake with black bears. We underestimated both species' adaptability to human landscapes. So to the extent that we can provide a sufficient scale of diverse natural habitats, which in our neck of the woods is like a mosaic of mature oak forest, producing acorns mixed with younger forest and brambles, we will meet the needs of black bears and many other native species without inviting them to visit our farms and neighborhoods. This has implications for public land policies, where active forest management approaches like prescribed burning or sustainable timber management can replicate natural disturbances regimes that wildlife and our ecosystem evolved with. It can also mean conserving corridors of natural forest vegetation that encourage safe movement of bears and other wildlife across roads and around urban areas. And this is not a lecture about habitat management, so I'll move on, but just remember that for wild animals, habitat is the canvas on which everything else is painted. A second main approach is to reduce the dependence of bears on human sources of food. Now, I never try to talk anybody out of planting native vegetation that provides food and cover for pollinators, birds, or other wildlife. It is a balance. And yes, we can all feed the birds, but please use best practices, like putting away your bird feeders from around April to October, because birds don't need them during the growing season as much, and bears are out of their dens looking for an easy meal. Removing or securing things bears might like to eat is the easiest and most effective way to reduce bears' dependence on humans and therefore reduce human-bear conflict. So for bears, you actually want to make your yard or your farm as uninviting and as unfriendly as possible. Remember, coexistence with large carnivores means tough love. As a resident in bear country, which is basically anywhere around Roanoke County, keep your trash inside until trash day, don't leave pet food outside, clean your grills, pick up fruit that has fallen from trees, etc. A lot of you have heard this if you live in neighborhoods around here. If you have chickens, put them in the hen house at night. If you have goats, house them at night, or at least keep them in a paddock near the house. A really good example of tough love is something called, and I kid you not, an unwelcome mat, which is a rug with little spikes sticking up that will deter even the most determined Bruin from breaking in and entering a building or chicken house or whatever. And you know, a sore foot is better than a dead bear, right? Gardens, beehives, orchards, livestock, fences, and sheds can be made virtually bear-proof with electric fencing. The toughest situations, and the ones where I feel the most about, is large crop fields like corn. But electric fencing can be used at entrance points if it's too expensive for the farmer to fence the whole thing out. If you hike, camp, or otherwise recreate in bear country, which is basically anywhere in Virginia or neighboring states, clean up your meal preparation sites, pack your trash out and or discard of it in bear-proof waste containers, and store your food inside a vehicle bear storage bin, or in a bag hanging from a tree if you're a backpacker. The most challenging recreational spaces for mitigating bear-human conflicts are developed campgrounds. Because bears quickly learn that these lazy, messy primates show up in hordes every day and night and forget that they share the space with crafty critters. So just remember to do your part and show bears that some primates can learn too. So coexistence with wildlife is a shared responsibility. What you do at your campsite or your house or your farm will affect the experience of your neighbors, the kind of experiences they have with wildlife, for good or bad. Don't be afraid to educate neighbors about the do's and don'ts. For example, it is illegal to feed bears in Virginia or to continue to put out food or trash for any reason if it attracts bears. Because bears move around a lot, this knowledge will lead to greater success when the entire neighborhood participates at the same time. In this case, like others, the community approach is always the best approach. Now, community is the term that we use for neighborhoods, congregations, or similar associations of people. But there is another type of community, an ecological community. It is a group of animal species or plant species commonly living together. For example, the African Serengeti has its famous complex of large predators like lions and cheetahs, diverse species of prey like zebras and wildebeest, and other species like elephants and our cousins the baboons. And we also know that early humans and our hominid ancestors were part of that natural community, co-evolving with those icons of wildlife. Although for a much shorter period, humans have also been a part of the eastern hardwood forest ecosystem in North America where we live for long enough to develop complex relationships with our own diverse assemblage of wild species. Elegant great blue herons, non-assuming box turtles, shimmering American shad migrating up the falls, and noble black bears. The relationship that developed between the ancestors of the Tutelo Monacans and our Appalachian wildlife was most likely a pragmatic mutualism. Native peoples used wild animals as food and other material goods, but as best as we can tell, revered wildlife in a way that European immigrants did not quite understand. Unfortunately, Europeans largely adopted an unsustainable utilitarianism toward wildlife and natural resources, using them until they were gone, or almost. Today, we've come full circle toward a new mutualistic view about the value of wild animals, but it's more sanitized, removed, romantic, and often unrealistic. So what is the right relationship between modern humans and wild species in a human-altered landscape? Today, right now, how can we best do our part in this interdependent web of all existence? For such complex questions, the answer is often deceptively simple. Keep wildlife wild. No matter how we interact with wild animals, from hands-on and intimate as an angler or a hunter, to appreciating wildlife at a distance as a bird watcher or viewer of wildlife-inspired art, to just knowing that wild animals exist in a functioning ecosystem in wild places, we must abide by the covenant of the wild, which is to live and let live. In some instances, it may also even mean live and let die. For that is the Tao of nature, the sacred circle of life, the way a mountain, in its timeless wisdom and objectivity, views it. It is sometimes with best intentions that we humans want to step in to reduce the suffering of wild animals or prop them up with artificial food or shelter. Now, there's plenty of examples of when this may be appropriate, but in general, any action that reduces the wildness tends to diminish the value of a wild animal in the greater ecological community. Intervention often does more to satisfy a human craving for connection with another life than it does to support the fragile balance of nature. Wild animals are not pets. There must be, for those of us who love animals, a painful but necessary estrangement. The old adage, if you love me, let me go, certainly applies here. But hopefully you are still filled with wonder, curiosity, and respect when you see an animal in nature. In summary, don't hug a bear, embrace his wildness. Things will come out better for both species when you do. Before I close, I would like to provide you with a couple of links with more information about coexisting with black bears and other wild animals in Virginia. The first one is the website for the Virginia Department of Wildlife Resources, which is www.dwr.gov. www.virginia, spelled out, .gov, G-O-V. You can tell I say that a lot. On that site, you will also find that Virginia Black Bear Management Plan, which is kind of a one-stop shopping for all information you would ever want about black bears, which I borrowed so heavily from for this talk. The second link is bearwise.org, which is perhaps the best single site for simple information about living with bears, whether in residential, agricultural, or recreational settings. Bearwise started right here in the southeastern United States with Virginia as a founding member to provide consistent messaging about black bears or grizzly bears or polar bears, and now it's a nationwide resource. I will conclude with the ending paragraph of Aldo Leopold's Thinking Like a Mountain that I read from before the sermon. I quote, "We all strive for safety, prosperity, comfort, long life, and dullness. The deer strives with his supple legs, the cowman with trap and poison, the statesman with pen, the most of us with machines, votes, and dollars, but it all comes to the same thing, peace in our time. A measure of success in all of this is well enough, and perhaps it is a requisite to objective thinking, but too much safety seems to yield only danger in the long run. Perhaps this is behind Thoreau's dictum, in wildness is the salvation of the world. Perhaps this is the hidden meaning in the howl of the wolf, long known among mountains, but seldom perceived among men." Amen, and thank you.
Where are we here? The work of this church requires the time, talent, and treasure of many people. As we collect today's offering, know that your generous gifts will go towards furthering the mission of this church.
During the offering, we're going to be singing hymn 175, and the words will be on the screen, but you also have hymnals if you would like to join.
We celebrate the web of life, its magnitude we sing. For
Good morning. I'm Terry Smith, representing the Caring Committee of our church. This is the time in the service where we like to share our personal joys and concerns, significant news to the community. Today is 12/3, so that's where I'll start reading. November 30th, I don't know if this was shared last Sunday, Mary Sue Hunt has a grandson named Eli who is 5, and his parents are facing some challenges and looking for answers, and she asks that we please keep them in our thoughts. And Lynn Yates has had a bad fall. She was at home this week. She fell and broke 3 ribs. One of those punctured her spleen. It had to be removed. She's currently at Lewis Gale Hospital, room 512. No visitors, please, but she would adore and accept your warm wishes for a full and swift recovery. And now, if you have a joy or concern in your heart that you would like to address, this is a time to come and light candles. You can line up at both sides of the altar. Thank you.
I feel you deep within, so I am sending you, Lord, to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you, Lord, to hold you in love. I am sending you, Lord, to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you, Lord, to hold you in love. No matter what you feel or what you choose to show, I'm always there for you. And so I want you to know that I am sending you, Lord, to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you, Lord, to hold you in love. I am sending you, Lord, to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you, Lord, to hold you in love. I walk the path with you. Go slow, dear one, don't hurry. I'll go just like you need to go. There is no need to worry, 'cause I am sending you, Lord, to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you, Lord, to hold you in love. I am sending you, Lord, to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you, Lord, to hold you in love.
May our prayers be heard and our hearts be lifted.
Our prayer contained today is one that I compose after plagiarizing from the thoughts of many other people. May we find within ourselves the sense of fellowship with all living things. May we show care for all creation, marvel at its beauty, and share its resources. May we remember to treat all creatures, including ourselves and each other, with compassion, loving care, and respect. May we become better caretakers of the earth and its inhabitants, including all creatures, great and small. May our society be changed from one in which some are harmed into one in which all are nurtured and protected. May we each have the strength to continue spreading awareness that each one of us has a role to play, that each action is important, no matter how small it may seem. This is our prayer. Amen. And now announcements. We have one announcement today that I don't think was in the bulletin, and that is that next Sunday, December 10th, is the last day for the food collection. And the grocery list will be in the fellowship hall that you can pick up during the fellowship time. There are several announcements and many events listed in today's church bulletin and in the December newsletter that came out this past Thursday. If you're not receiving the newsletter and would like to, please contact our church administrator, Susan Cousins, at admin@uuroanoke.org. I'll say it again, admin@uuroanoke.org. Now, I'd like to thank all of those who helped with today's service, including those who sent pictures of their beloved pets and the kids who folded the bulletins. And a special thank you to Nelson for an inspiring and thoughtful and apt message about living with each other, living with other creatures on our planet. And to Carrie and the choir, and especially Martha, thank you for your beautiful voice. And Sherry and Betsy for the AV work they're doing, and to Jessie, who's not here, but who gave me so much help with her creative ideas and by putting together the video presentation that'll be shown right after today's service. The video takes, I'm told, I haven't seen it yet, about 4 minutes, and it'll run on a loop for a couple of repeats. So if you want to see it, you can either stay to watch it or get your coffee and rush back, okay? Okay.
So the closing music is All God's Critters Got a Place in the Choir. There are words on the screen so you can participate. You're going to want to participate. If you don't know this song, you're going to love it.
All those critters got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing higher, some sing out loud on the telephone line. Some just clap their hands or balls or anything they got now. Listen to the bass, it's the one on the bottom where the bullfrog grows and the hippopotamus moans and groans with a beat to do. It's a simple song sung everywhere, with the fox and the ox and the grizzly bear, and the turkey alligator and the hops of love, the sly raccoon and the turtle dove.
We have to practice that.
All God's critters got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing high, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands or paws or anything they got now.
May we honor all creatures, including ourselves, and coexist in harmony with all living things. Go into your week with peace, and may the light of the chalice go with you. Amen.
Jesus, our brother, kind and good, was humbly born in a stable room, and the friendly beasts around him stood. Jesus, our brother, kind and good. I set the donkey shaggy and brown. I carried his mother up hill and down. I carried her safely to Bethlehem town. I set the donkey shaggy and brown. I set the cow all white and red. I gave him my manger for his bed. I gave him my hay to pillow his head. I set the cow all white and red. I set the sheep with the curly horn. I gave him my wool for his blanket warm. He wore my coat on Christmas morn. I set the sheep with the curly horn. I set the dove from the rafters high. I cooed him to sleep that he would not cry. We cooed him to sleep, my maid and I. I set the dove from the rafters high. Thus every beast by some good spell in the stable dark was glad to tell of the gift he gave Emmanuel. The gift he gave Emmanuel. Jesus, our brother, kind and good, was humbly born in a stable room, and the friendly beasts around him stood. Jesus, our brother, kind and good. Jesus, our brother, kind and good, was humbly born in a stable room, and the friendly beasts around him stood. Jesus, our brother, kind and good. I set the donkey shaggy and brown. I carried his mother up hill and down. I carried her safely to Bethlehem town. I set the donkey shaggy and brown. I set the cow all white and red. I gave him my manger for his bed. I gave him my hay to pillow his head. I set the cow all white and red. I set the sheep with the curly horn. I gave him my wool for his blanket warm. He wore my coat on Christmas morn. I set the sheep with the curly horn. I set the dove from the rafters high. I cooed him to sleep that he would not cry. We cooed him to sleep, my maid and I. I set the dove from the rafters high. Thus every beast by some good spell in the stable dark was glad to tell of the gift he gave Emmanuel. The gift he gave Emmanuel. Jesus, our brother, kind and good, was humbly born in a stable roof, and the friendly beasts around him stood. Jesus, our brother, kind and good. Jesus, our brother, kind and good, was humbly born in a stable roof, and the friendly beasts around him stood. Jesus, our brother, kind and good. I set the donkey shaggy and brown. I carried his mother up hill and down. I carried her safely to Bethlehem town. I set the donkey shaggy and brown. I set the cow all white and red. I gave him my manger for his bed. I gave him my hay to pillow his head. I set the cow all white and red. I set the sheep with the curly horn. I gave him my wool for his blanket warm. He wore my coat on Christmas morn. I set the sheep with the curly horn. I set the dove from the rafters high. I cooed him to sleep that he would not cry. We cooed him to sleep, my maid and I. I set the dove from the rafters high. Thus every beast by some good spell in the stable dark was glad to tell of the gift he gave Emmanuel. The gift he gave Emmanuel. Jesus, our brother, kind and good, was humbly born in a stable roof, and the friendly beasts around him stood. Jesus, our brother, kind and